The pharaohs of the Old Kingdom used to build their pyramids in El Giza area, close to Cairo. Over there are more than 92 pyramids, but it's quite rare to find pyramids built in Middle Egypt, 300 kilometers south of the Great Pyramids of Giza. This is a pyramid of King Honi from the 3rd Dynasty Old Kingdom. It's located near El Kom El Ahmar village in Zawiyat Sultan in El Minya Governorate. The Old Kingdom is that magnificent era of the Egyptian history when the first steps of building pyramids in Egypt started. It was in the 3rd Dynasty that the attempts of building a lasting tomb for the king using stone began. These fabulous projects started from the 3rd Dynasty and continued progressing till the 6th Dynasty. The biggest common factor between these dynasties is a constructional element which was represented best in reaching the complete pyramidal shape of the king's tomb. Since the most important Egyptian pyramids were built in that era, thus it's called the era of the pyramids builders, which are included within the area from Abu Rawash in the north and Tilmai Dum in the south. The 3rd Dynasty ruled Egypt for more than 70 years through 6 kings who are Sanacht, Zoser, Sekhemkhet, Khapa, Nebkau, and Huni. The most famous king in the 3rd Dynasty was King Zoser, whose name was connected with the step pyramid in Saqqara, and his architect and minister Imhotep, who was famous throughout the entire Egyptian history, and the Greeks equated him with their god of medicine Aesculapius. The collection of the step pyramid in Saqqara was a giant jump in the Egyptian architecture, grading from the mastaba style of the tomb and taking it to a larger scale by composing 6 gradual mastabas or steps, decreasing in size to the top, rising above more than 30 chambers of burials dug under the ground. King Zoser's name was also connected with the most famous rock in Sohail Island in Aswan, known by the name of the Famine Palette. A story is engraved on the rock that happened during Zoser's reign as a result of the drop down of the Nile's water for 7 years. The king got upset, so he asked the high priest to check it out and find the reason behind that. The reply came that the village of Abu, which was the capital of the first nome, is the one preventing the flow of the water. The story tells that King Zoser saw in his dream God Khnum, the god of the territory, reminding him of his strength and control over the Nile water. So when Zoser woke up, he believed that Khnum had to be satisfied. So he donated to him massive areas of land and ordered offerings to be presented to him. It seems that this story, that was written in the Ptolemaic period, shows the fear and respect the priests of Khnum had towards goddess Isis, whose power was increasing. So they wanted, with reviving that story, to regain the sympathy of the Ptolemaic kings and prove that kings of the ancient times revered their god Khnum. King Huni was the last king of the Third Dynasty, and he ruled for 24 years. He started building the Pyramid of Maidum, but died before completing it. So King Senefru, the first king of the Fourth Dynasty, finished it. King Huni's other attempt to build a pyramid was here in Elminia Governorate, 7 kilometers south of Elminia city, on the east bank of the Nile. The site was imported in the ancient times 5,000 years ago, as it's called Hebnu, which was the capital of the 16th nome of Egypt, known as the Ibex Nome. The area is called now El Qom El Ahmar, or the Red Hill. It's a cemetery of some of the rulers of the capital Hebnu, but was first used by King Huni, who attempted to build the first shape of a complete pyramid with its 4 sides, the model which was later developed on a much larger scale by King Huni's successor, King Senefru. In Dahshur, the engineer of the king built a pyramid in the shape of a complete pyramidical shape, but the attempt wasn't successful, for after they rose to the 98th meter, they changed the angles to make the building look like a mastaba topped by a pyramid. This pyramid is called the Bent Pyramid and still has its outer coating cover. The second pyramid of Senefru was the first complete pyramidical shape achieved when the king's engineers used all the experience they got and avoided committing the same mistakes of the first pyramid. Perhaps time was kind enough to savor these fabulous early pyramidical buildings to answer back the history imposters who do their best to mutilate Egypt's history, claiming funny enough that aliens built the pyramids and bringing up the picture of the Great Pyramid as if it came in that accuracy out of nowhere. That ridiculous claim is the most failure and ignorant attempt ever, trying to strip Egypt out of its glorious past. But our monuments stand witness to the early and gradual attempts to build these marvelous constructions as tombs of their pharaohs, who were half-gods, in the shape of pyramids, to immortalize and revere them till the end of time. So it's time to take a second look with wonder and admiration to King Huni's pyramid. The Red Hill, or El Qom El Ahmar, was an ancient city gaining its fame from the old capital of the 16th nome called Hebnu. The city was surrounded with a wall that was built of mud bricks, some parts of which still exist and show the massive space of land it occupied. Here, there used to be factories of pottery, which belonged to several periods of the ancient Egyptian history and till the Greek-Roman period. That fact simply means that the billions of pottery here are considered treasures that testify to the periods and events with which this monumental area passed throughout the Egyptian history, and is revealing more secrets every day. there is a Mizana, or a watching tower, that was built on top of the mountain. It was built in the Fatimid era, 1000 years ago, as a guarding point to observe the ships and the boats passing by the city in the Nile. Thus it's called the observatory. Here, there are over 100 burial shafts, either rounded or rectangular, from the pharaonic period, and are still waiting to be excavated. The princes who ruled Hebno city, the capital of the Ibex nome, were considered governors and were of the highest positions here. Thus, they acquired distinctive tombs that were cut out in the rocks. These tombs are contemporary to those built in Aswan for their fellow governors over there. It was the level of tombs that suited the noblemen who weren't entitled to have pyramids like the pharaohs. This rock tomb style lasted for longer periods, as it became the only style of burial dedicated to the kings of the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom, in an attempt to conceal and hide the royal tombs from robbery. El Minya itself has a good example of that royal rock-cut tomb represented in the royal tomb of King Akhenaton. The tomb lies in a unique middle place, hidden between the northern and southern chain of mountains of Akhet Aton, the new city of Akhenaton and the capital of Egypt in his reign. The tomb was astonishingly cut out in a similar way to the tombs of Thebes in the west bank of Luxor, and had enough logical evidences to prove that. It comprises scenes of Akhenaton and his family, but there is no proof that him or any of his family members were buried there. As for the Red Hills tombs, there are three major tombs to be visited. They are the tombs of the two princes Nia-Akhbepi and Khonso from the Old Kingdom, in addition to the tomb of Nefer-Sekheru, who was a royal scribe and the supervisor of the granaries of Upper and Lower Egypt. The potsherds are considered one of the main sources of information that clarifies events and traditions about the ancient Egyptian history. When the ancient Egyptians invented writing, they started by writing on the broken pieces of pots made of pottery, which they all consumed in their daily needs. When some of these pottery were broken, they used the shreds to write upon. In fact, it was the very existence of these fragments of pottery that enabled us to date any monumental site based on the date of the pottery. Each phase of time is marked by the type, shape, style, and density of pottery used then. In the Ramesseum Temple, which was built by King Ramesses II in the New Kingdom, there is a group of aisles surrounding the temple from three sides. They were built of mud bricks, and each of the storing rooms had a high ceiling with a vaulted roof. Seeds and wine and beer and oil jars were stored here. so thousands of pot shreds could be found all around the place. There are even intact jars that still have their lids upon them, bearing the name of King Ramesses II, the owner of the temple that exists on the west bank of Luxor. Habbo Temple had unique constructions surrounding the temple, represented in the king's settlements, in which he used to rest when he visited the temple on occasions. These settlements had palaces for himself and his wife, and his servants and entourage. Naturally, there used to be storages for food and drinks and clothes and leather and all items needed for the service of the temple, and used by the priests who resided here. The leftovers of these jars had turned into pot shreds and are scattered all around this fabulous monumental place. All these pieces of pottery were checked by archaeologists and experts who had helped to define the exact date of the site and details of the contents of this pottery. Abydos Temple was a final place which any deceased hoped to be taken to after his death, to pay a visit to the god of the dead, Osiris, who resides in that temple. That was an option only for the financially capable people, but as for the poor who couldn't do this pilgrimage, they sent a pot with their name upon it to be buried in the open court of the temple. Sometimes a sacrificial animal was placed inside the pot. By time, many pots were exposed in the open air and were broken, telling us interesting rituals that once upon a time were performed in the honor of the god. El Kom El Ahmar in El Minya Governorate is a very rich source of fragments of pottery, where people got rid of their broken personal pottery one era after another. These fragments gave the area its unique importance and view, making it one of the most interesting places to be visited in El Minya, the capital city of King Akhenaton.